This is one of those cool days where you just get to play with really awesome equipment, in this case the UE150 camera, but also where I finally realized that an age-old idea of placing a robotic camera on a dolly track or slider finally came to be. It's something that from even when I started this company, I thought that I wanted to do and add that dimension to live production. So I finally bring you the first prototype here, and I'm really excited to share it, and with the new PTZ Extreme controller. So we have the UE150 from Panasonic, and also the PTZ Extreme controller, which is our flagship PTZ controller. It has a really nice Hall effect joystick. And then it has a section in the middle, which we designed with direct access to parameters on encoders on the top. Then we have a row of buttons, which you can use for whatever you want, but most likely you will assign them to be menu selection or something else. So the reason why you can just do anything is because they have displays. And then underneath again, you have a row of buttons with displays as well, which we think will be useful to recall presets, because we can also label presets. And then finally, there's a row of buttons that do not have any displays, but they will typically be a camera selector row. And then on the far left on the controller, we have a custom designed zoom rocker, really high quality and nice component. We have a focus wheel and an iris knob, also dedicated buttons for stuff like auto iris, autofocus, one push focus iris, and things like that. So we're really excited about the PTZ Extreme. We think it's a really high-end PTZ controller. And today we're gonna use it with the UE150 camera. So let's just see how that works out. Unfortunately, I do not have a lot of them, and the focus is not so much on the full feature set of the PTZ Extreme today, because actually I have to say that it was difficult to populate all these buttons with functions for such a demonstration that we are going to conduct here. But so I have one camera, and you can see it's selected right here. So if we just want to make a quick browse of the features, then we can recall presets like this, and I already did some labeling, so you can see the camera is moving as I'm pressing these buttons, and you can imagine that these presets would be meaningful names that tells the operator what the preset is for. So of course that's the idea. Then we have a menu here which could be extended in this direction with categories of settings that would then be mapped onto the encoders on the top part of the controller, obviously. So where we are right now, let's see. This is the iris knob I have right here. So if I, well, maybe we should actually, if I just operate the joystick, then I'm zooming out. Right, there we go. And you can see, oh, I really love Panasonic's cameras for their handling with the pan, tilt, and zoom, and how it's sensitive to how far you have zoomed in and so on. I think that's a really neat feature of these cameras. So we have some fruit, and this is our target for today. Okay, so basically we have, having this split up, we have the joystick over here, which is pan, tilt, and also zoom when I rotate the joystick. But then of course notice that I also have a zoom rocker over here, so I can also do zooming with the zoom rocker. And that's obviously the reason for having it labeled white and tele, like you can see. Then we have the iris knob here, which is then close to your left hand. So if you want to turn up the iris, we can do that on this knob. If you want to go coarser steps, you can also press it, and then you have it moving more quickly, and then you can fine tune here. And then now, okay, so let's just zoom into the fruit a little bit, to this apple right there. Okay, and then let me just see, autofocus is off, so we actually have the focus wheel right here on my left thumb. You can see I can use that to adjust the focus and fine tune the focus on this apple. There we go. And we are right there. Okay, so joystick, zoom rocker, iris adjustment, focus wheel for your thumb. What more can you wish for? And then the slider. So one of the things that is cool about having those controls in separate hands is that you can decide to map them differently. And instead of using the zoom rocker on your left hand, and also zoom on the joystick, you could then decide that the zoom rocker on your left hand should actually be moving the slider track. So I want to show you now how we can add that feature to the PTZ Extreme. And it's connected with USB to my laptop, so I'll just press the local configuration button and it brings up the web interface you might have seen tons of times in demonstrations. Okay, so it had just been disabled. Enabled. I'll bring it up again. There we go. Yes, PTZ Extreme. Ladies and gentlemen, I will select two things. I will select the zoom rocker over here and then button number A9 on the PTZ Extreme, because I have two actions I need to assign. You'll see why in just a second. So if we go to the zoom rocker, instead of selecting Panasonic PTZ Zoom, I'm just going to browse down to the action called Kessler Second Shooter, because this is a track from Kessler, controlled by Second Shooter box, which is out here. And so I select that one, and then I have three options. I can select slider, pan, focus, tilt, axis. So in fact, the Second Shooter can control multiple motors on a track like this, and we only have one motor today. But if we had a box camera sitting on a pan tilt head, then two other channels could be assigned to the pan and tilt dimension of that pan tilt head, and we could then assign that to the joystick, for instance. I'm just going to change it for slider zoom, and then for the button A9, there is a second button we need to assign, which is a calibration button. So with this button, we calibrate the second shooter so that we are not able to actually move the camera over the edge, because that's exactly what will happen or can happen if we do not know the end positions on the slider. So you need to calibrate. I'm just gonna save now. But what it also means is that the calibration makes it safe to operate, because then you can just go nuts and bang it to the end without actually hitting the mechanical end, because you have assigned some end points and begin points. So the setting is already done because it's saved into the flash of the controller, and you see now that there's an assignment of actions located on this button over here. So now the zoom rocker is also assigned to moving the camera. Let's just see how this works out. Okay, so I'm now moving, and I have some issues with my wires here. I need to be careful with those. Okay, right. And I also think I actually should probably, I think this needs to be, let me see, I need to move this a little bit too. I should have done this before I did the recording, because it needs to be tight. Okay, maybe it's gonna work for the demo. I should have really turned those screws all the way, but you'll understand what we are looking at here. So I now move. You can see I can move this forth and back, so I can go the other way as well. There we go. Oh, actually what we want to do is to zoom out a little bit so you can actually see this movement on the screen. So let's just watch it. This is moving as far as I can. So maybe that's a little bit too quick, but we want to have smooth moves like this, because that's exactly what the point is. You have a robotic camera sitting on a track like this, and then if you have a foreground and you have a stage in the background, you can just make a nice smooth move like this. Okay. But what we want to do is to make sure we are not banging our head into the ends. So this is where we are pressing now the calibrate button. So now I mark the beginning, and now I'm just gonna race off to the end. There we go, and mark the end. And now the calibrate button is a reset button, so I can do it all over again. But what it means is that, let me just see if I can, and then it stops, and I go in the other direction, and voila, it stops. I'm still pressing the button. So as I say, I now have a safe way to do the track movement, and then I can also work with the camera here. There you go. While I'm moving on the track. And again, I may have a problem with the wires right now. Oh, I think I survived. But without putting too much thought into where I'm putting my zoom button, because it has this designated end position, I can just move it all the way over there and not worry about the end of the track, because it will just accelerate down nicely to a full stop before it's damaging anything. Okay, so ladies and gentlemen, this is the first prototype implementation of the dolly track, and something I've been wanting to do for years. And I hope you like the idea, and you can see the potential for small scale productions to add even nicer image work by having a horizontal movement in addition to your pan tilt zoom. And it really goes to show why SKAARHOJ controllers are so cool, in particular the PTZ Extreme, where you now have not only the joystick that is 4-axis or 3-axis with the rotation for zoom, but you have the zoom rocker, which you can then assign to do something entirely different than it was originally meant to do.